Welcome to Module 18 of the Documentation of Contract Quantities course. In this final module of the video series, we will talk about contract changes, railroad liability insurance, and traffic control inspections. Authorization of contract changes. Memorandum 04 is provided in the appendix, pages 96 to 116, and details the change order. Change orders amend a contract in order to address contingencies affecting performance and completion of the contract. A contract adjustment is in accordance with the original contract, further defined as either a major change or a minor change. Major changes revise alignment, provide acceleration for construction, and change the limits of the project. Minor changes are adjustments and extra work less than $250,000 that are required for the intent of the project. A change order, extra work, design changes, authorization to plans, special provisions which were not, and I key in on the word not, in the original contract. A contract adjustment is when the provisions for the change are included in the original contract. A change order alters the contract from that what was awarded under the competitive bidding prices, therefore requires clear explanation and careful consideration. All changes must be germane to the original contract. What does germane mean? Must be within the intent of the original contract. All extra work must be approved and directed in writing before the work begins, as we've talked about before. It must be approved by a person who has direct or delegated authority to approve the type, scope, or value of the work involved. On appendix page 100, we're going to highlight what those dollar values are. The regional engineer has the authority to approve minor changes less than $250,000. The other levels of delegated authority for minor contract changes are the implementation engineer at $150,000, construction engineer at $100,000, supervising field engineer of $40,000, and resident engineer or technician is $20,000. Contract changes for individual work efforts greater than $100,000 must be published in the Transportation Bulletin. All contract changes for individual work efforts greater than $100,000 must also be reviewed and receive a waiver from the Policy Procurement Board. The BC-24 form is used to provide this information to the Central Bureau of Construction. Certain change order categories require the waiver prior to beginning the work. On appendix page 117 is an example of the BC-24 Request for Procurement Policy Board waiver. Down here at the bottom half, this is the important section where we're determining the germaneness of this change. Let's look at a little closer. Here's the bottom half of the BC-24, the Request for Procurement Policy Board waiver. This is where you will pick the determination of germaneness statement that best fits the case for your contract and the change that you are proposing. This first one is our most common. It is germane to the original contract because provision for this work is included in the original contract. So this is our increased or decreased quantities. That's probably the most likely one that you will pick in most situations. On appendix page 118, you will find a copy of the BC-22 form, or Authorization of Contract Changes. This is the form that's used after prior approval to put in the actual line items and dollar values and quantities that are actually going to affect the total adjusted quantity on your contract. We're going to show you a little bit closer look right here in the middle where we have added our line items. Here we have the top half of that BC-22 Authorization of Contract Changes form from appendix page 118, blown up so we can look a little better. We've checked the box contract adjustment, so it's not a change order. Provisions are in the original contract. It is checked in-house, means it was designed in-house. Checked by minor change indicates it's not a major change, a minor change. Here we have our contract information and our columns. We have pay item number, category, pay item description, the pay units, the quantity, unit price, whether it's an addition or deduction from the contract, and here it's an addition to the contract or deduction, On our line items here, we have here 783, pay item number, raised reflective pavement markers, removal. It's in each unit. We had 37, contract unit price was 15. It's a deduct because we didn't use them, so we're deducting quantity from the contract. Here on these two, you can see we have these triple X numbers. Those are our adjustments. Here we have our traffic control price adjustment and our surface variations for HMA surface course. We talked about both of those in a previous module. Those are both additions to the contract because we did not have these pay items before, so we're adding them to the contract, even though on our surface variations we're going to deduct money. It's still adding this pay item to the contract and quantity. Here you can see we had two different fund codes. Down here we've got our X95 agreed unit price is what that would indicate. Metal post type B. Here we had a deduct to the contract. So we added this item, but we didn't use all the quantity, so we're going to remove money from the contract and balance out our quantities in the end. Traffic control inspection reports. These reports are more detailed than our daily drive-through, where we're checking AM and PM and noting that in our diary. These are more detailed. They look at the effectiveness of our traffic control for daytime traffic control. Once per week, this form is required to be filled out. Twice per month for nighttime inspection. So if we have traffic control out over the nighttime hours, twice per month we have to fill out the special form we'll show you in a moment. Like I said, they are more detailed than our informal beginning and end of the day. Let's take a look. Uh-oh, why do we need traffic control inspection? What's this out here? Well, let's take a closer look. Uh-oh. Yep, we had somebody crash through our traffic control, and they ended up out on this bridge where we're removing the bridge deck. We're down to the steel structure, and this guy didn't see the signs. This was an actual accident that happened near Fulton County Bridge near Ellisville, and it was not a good day for that guy driving the truck. Here we go on appendix page 119. We have the traffic control inspection report. It is the BSE 726 form, and here you can see we're evaluating more than just is the traffic control set up. We're evaluating our signs specifically, and we're looking at condition, location and placement, night visibility. If it doesn't apply, you can put an X. We're not evaluating. This would be a daytime inspection, and their general effectiveness. All right, we've got sign and device lights, channelizing, pavement markings, arrow boards, temporary traffic signals, barrier wall, and flaggers. Here we have some comments right in here. So we make this report and we send copies to the file, the contractor, and the operations traffic engineer, and we sign it and send in the copies. Please make a note, if we have any deficiencies going on here, you better have another form completed soon after this one that shows the rectification or fixing of those deficiencies. Here are some shots of why we do daytime versus nighttime checking as well. These two pictures represent the same little stretch of road. You can tell here we have our little chevron sign right here. This is the same sign. We're evaluating nighttime efficiency of our lighting. Daytime visibility is much different. What do you think? Is insurance a good idea in this case? Here we have our bridge going over our railroad tracks, and here we're getting ready. We're setting up with some protective materials to make sure we don't damage those tracks. Insurance is a good idea, and it's required if we're working within 50 feet of a railroad right away. Let's take a look. Railroad Protective Liability Insurance, or RRPLI, is the typical abbreviation. These policies will be obtained by the prime contractor, and it is an agreement between the contractor and the railroad that says we have liability insurance in case we're doing work and anything happens. Then there's an agreement between the parties. Residents must not accept the policy itself. It can only be approved by central office. So the process is that the contractor will contact the insurance agency that copies that policy, is then sent to Central Bureau, reaches out to the railroad, and Central Bureau will work with the railroad to make any adjustments required for that policy. An individual policy per railroad per contract is required. If you have 3 railroads on your contract, you're going to have 3 different insurance policies. No work is allowed within 50 feet of the right-of-way of that railroad until the approval letter is received from central office only. Do not pay your railroad protective liability insurance without having that central office approval letter. On page 120 in the appendix is an example of this approval letter generated from central office and should be sent to you. If not, and you're looking for it, you can always give them a call. Contracts at Design and Environment. Here's their phone number. You can give them a call and see if the letter has been issued, and they can send you a copy. Once you have the copy of this letter and a copy of the insurance policy, you can then put it on your next pay estimate for payment to the contractor. Please note, each contract will have an expiration date, or each insurance policy will have an expiration date. Typically, they're good for a term of 1 year. So if your contract is going to span more than a year, you'll want to note when you need to have a renewed policy. Otherwise, you're going to have to tell your contractor they can't work in those areas. That's it, folks. This is the end of our official instruction for the documentation of contract quantities. There's nowhere else to go but to take a certification exam and get a certificate. Thank you for participating in the Documentation of Contract Quantities online course. Should you have any questions or comments, you may contact us by email at doctraining@illinois.edu.